interesting when Jesus, I guess he doesn't quote it, but when it is quoted about Jesus from the prophet Isaiah, "Behold my servant whom I chose, my beloved in whom I delight." It's interesting. He says, I will place my spirit upon him, and he will proclaim justice to the Gentiles. Who are the Gentiles? Well, basically at the time, the Gentiles, anybody who's not Jewish. But in our context, that would be like saying the pagans, the non-believers, right? So the Messiah, Jesus, is going to proclaim justice to the Gentiles, and we can think, okay, in the biblical sense, at least in the New Testament sense, what is justice? St. Paul talks all the time about being justified. What it basically means is when we're living in the life of grace, when God's life dwells in our hearts, we are in, quote-unquote, justice with God, okay? So he's going to bring God's grace. He's going to bring conversion. He's going to bring a new covenant to the world, not simply to the Jewish people, but to all peoples. But then it's interesting because when one line it says he's going to proclaim justice, you normally think of proclaiming being something loud, getting up and preaching. But the very following line it says, he will not contend or cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. So he's going to do it quietly. A bruised reed he will not break, a smoldering wick he will not quench. What's that mean? It means that when this Messiah encounters people who are spiritually weak, he's not going to snuff them out and overrun them. He's not going to overpower them and blast them. Sometimes when we see that the world is in a bad state, we want somebody to come out and blast people. And it says here that basically Christ is going to accept people where they're at, not because they're good enough, not saying, oh, don't worry, your sinful lifestyle is just okay. But he's going to take people where they're at and reveal his love to people where they are at. And then quietly, gently lead them until he brings justice to victory. And in his name the Gentiles will hope. I think this is pretty different than the way that a lot of us tend to think about evangelizing culture. There is a place for noise. There is a place for enthusiasm. There is a place for public manifestation and strong preaching and all the stuff that we normally think of when we say, okay, living our faith intensely. But the reality is that's not where most conversions come from. If a conversion depends on a strong emotional event, you know what? It's probably a conversion on the level of emotion, and the minute the emotions are gone, the person says, well, maybe no, and then they relapse. Because emotions go up and down, and we see that a lot, okay? But if a conversion is based on something quieter and deeper, an experience that, despite the fact that maybe I'm a mess, nonetheless this person just keeps loving me. That slow and quiet, day-to-day, gentle effect is where real transformation of the heart takes place. And this is something that we need to learn. We need to allow ourselves not to feel like we always have to body slam people and make strong corrections and I can't see that. You got to speak truth. Okay, yes, we do have to speak truth, but there are ways of doing it, and sometimes we need to speak up strongly and loudly and clearly, but usually it's going to come down to the little things.